All right, all right, all right. You know what it is, and you know what it ain't. Well, it's Monday night live in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is the reliable Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Ow!
And as far as the other panel members, we will wait and see. Recap from this past Monday's broadcast, we discussed marriages. Is it time to replace traditional marriages with something new, such as a starter marriage or the sweetness of living alone together marriage? A very interesting conversation that I'm sure it will be picked up again in the near future. Okay, let's take a look at tonight's topic, October 24th. What is your determining factor in choosing a nice guy versus a bad boy? And of course, this question is for you, ladies. Well, not in this day and age. I guess it ain't up for all ladies. My bad. Is it that the nice guys are not willing to make the first move? Or is it his lack of experience? Or just too damn clingy? Now, let's discuss the final two talking points. Number two, you still running your damn mouth and have not learned to keep your relationship private. See a lot of that's going on more and more. You already know what time it is. It's cuffing season. And, people like to showcase that they got somebody. They got somebody for the cold winter months. And number three, carryover topic is communication, a lost art for men when it comes to approaching women. Okay, folks, another great broadcast coming your way. Please like and share our video, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. We're up to 516 subs and counting. Let's try to get this. Let's try to get this thing to 600, at least by mid-November. So please like and share the video, and please subscribe. All right, so here we are. What's going on with you, Big Bad Wolf?
Man, still got the garage roof to finish, man. But I'm happy to report I heard some very uplifting news, shall I say? No pun intended. That how this is actually going to come out. Also, no pun intended. A lot of double entendres with this particular one. But there's some information filtering through the Black Manosphere about the lack of sperm donors, if you will, for the upwardly mobile women. And this was something that I wanted to discuss last year. If quote unquote they don't need no man, then why do they need that black man's sperm?
Hmm.
Now, yes, I'm elated because it's time to beat down that notion that they don't need no man. See, they thought all the education, earning that money, driving the nice cars, was going to satiate them until they realized they actually have to come back to the table. And guess what happens when you come back to the bargaining table and ain't nobody sitting there? You left twiddling your thumbs. Beware what you ask for. You just may get it. Just wanted to put that out there to stir the pot a little bit.
So you're saying that they're looking for sperm donors.
Yeah. Yep. Women that are either in gender neutral relationships, shall I say, or women that are professed to not want to get married, not want to deal with no man, but they want children, particularly black children. I think it was less than 2% of this is in California, I do believe. This is less than 2% of male sperm donors are black. And when a prospective mother's looking for a black sperm donor, they're not there.
So I don't know. So you rather have someone's sperm that you don't know anything about. And I know people been doing this forever, but you definitely got to be careful what you ask for in that case. when you don't. That's crazy. How about just going about it the traditional way? I forgot what kid. That's a touchy word in itself, traditional. But whatever they decide to do, hey, go for it. I wish them the best.
Nah, I'm just a connection. I'm gonna have to. I see. I'm gonna have to hop on my computer. Go ahead. You were saying you were asking the question.
I was saying so. People, who, looking for sperm donors, isn't that kind of, risky, not knowing whose sperm it is and how what factors going to play in from whoever that person, the DNA, whoever it came from.
Well, the thing about it is the way they do sperm donations, from what I understand, is they track the prospective or the donor. So they have all the characteristics. They make sure he's clean, no congenital diseases, no STIs, STDs, and they have the characteristics so the mother or the prospective mother can come in there and choose. So not knowing, quote unquote, is actually not a thing, and that's one of the other things that men are scared of, because it has happened on an occasion. Is that the man who actually donated sperm, which is supposed to be from financial liability, they've actually come back after him and sued for child support. So that's one of the other things that men have become leery of. And Gen X men, take a bow. You put your foot down.
What?
Say, you know what? We're not dealing with this bullshit anymore. Y'all don't want men? We gonna take our shit and go home. We gonna literally take our balls and go home.
So they come back after the sperm donor for child
Yeah.
support.
Mm-hmm.
That's some bull.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else new going on with you?
No, I just want to put that out there. The Yankees, of course, got eliminated, so it's gonna be a long off season of crying and boy, whether they get Judge signed or not, it's gonna be. But I got my Cowboys to fall back on for the moment, so I'm okay right now.
Yeah, I'm just a fan, casual fan. It was, I mean, the Yankees, I already knew they was riding a sinking ship. When a lot of their pitching, some other key players got hurt, and they was kind of on the downward spiral throughout the from the mid-year point. And Houston, they're a good team, but I can't roll with them from them cheating back a few years ago.
Yeah,
So
that left the stain.
I gotta go with Philly to pull it out. And that'll be 2 years in a row they then went to the World Series and took L's. So hopefully, if the Phillies, because they playing some good ball themselves, so we'll see. And the Steelers is trash this year, but no expectations. Got a rookie quarterback, but he's gonna be all right. He's gonna be all right in a couple years. And of course, we got the hometown team, the Bills, that they're looking strong, but we know in sports, and like with everything, all it takes is one injury, just like at work. All it takes is one key person to get sick or something, and shit can
Yeah.
go downhill. So and that's life, and even in relationships, husband, wife, or your partner gets ill and not able to maintain and do what they need to do, households go down. So it's all related. But as far as me, same old, same old. Had a the luxury of having Friday off, sort of like a mental health type day, and then today we had virtual professional development, so didn't have to go in the building. Kids wasn't there, so might as well get my strap on my boots for tomorrow, because they're gonna be ready to have at it. That's for sure. Start the week off on a Tuesday, they're gonna be amped up and ready to go. But pretty much that's that, or something might pop up throughout. But the first subject matter is what is what is you ladies' determining factor to choosing a nice guy versus a bad boy? Mm. God, I'm listening here. Thanks for joining us. So, Herb, what did you consider yourself growing up? Like a nice guy or a bad boy?
I could never be a bad boy because I never did the bad boy things. I hung out with, back in high school. I was a smart kid, just never applied myself. But I hung out mostly with the jocks because they were my friends, and I played football and ran track. So I was never really, the prototypical bad boy. It wasn't like I was out in the streets. I was working for the most part because I was pretty much on my own. So I always considered myself more on the good guy side. And it was funny. I remember, 11th grade, second floor. I was by room 221. Had a reasonably attractive young woman approach me, and she asked me, I'm wearing a dope boy gear. She said, Herb, you hustling? I said, huh? She said, you hustling? I said, no, I work. She said, oh, turned around and walked away. It was at that point in time I knew where I was, knew where I stood. So it's kind of a twisting, winding road for a lot of men, especially black men, younger black men trying to find their footing, when it comes to being uh not even a ladies man, just kind of trying to find your footing as to where you fit in the dating market, if you will. Because I mean, you get so many bits and pieces of information that if you don't have a father or an older brother, somebody who's there to put all those pieces together for you, you left struggling trying to make some sense of it all. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And by the time you figure it out, you're in your mid 20s and you're socially inept. And this is just like, what do you do? You're watching the sea, turbulent waves, you getting tossed here, getting tossed there. You just trying to find some calm ground. So it's not easy.
Well, one of the things, the common thing that is always said in the in the counselor's corner is a lot of guys. That's where their anger is at because they can't get any women, so they hate women and things of that nature. So that's a narrative that's being put out there about the group a lot of times. I just laugh because I say that shit don't pertain to me, but that's one of the things they say. But also, far as the bad boy, good boy narrative, I was always did the right thing while I was in school, but after school, I still never did anything, but I hung around and would be where the bad boys would be at and did those things, but never got myself tangled into that. So I understand both sides of it. Uh, so I always felt like I could bring a unique twist to it because I understood their thinking and how they operate. Just being around them never never my thing. We got Miss Anita here. How you doing?
Hi, I'm
Like you
doing
all snuggled up under a blanket or something. What's new with you? What's going on?
nothing. I had my aunt's funeral services today, so I'm not sure how long I'll be on here.
All right. I hope everything went well as expected, and hope everybody is holding up.
Yeah, thank you. I can't hardly hear you though. Can you turn that up?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little better.
It's like a Verizon commercial.
I got people.
Can you hear me better now?
No.
It's on it's on its highest volume.
Oh, I got my Halloween muumuu on right now.
Oh, okay. Y'all crazy about them moo they play a role, but that's Anita after dark conversations.
Yeah.
So Anita, talk to me about what's your determining factor. Have you ever dated a bad guy compared to a good guy? What was your rationale in determining which one you wanted to be involved with?
That's a loaded question.
It's a lot.
I mean, it depends on what stage of life I was in. When I was in high school, I dated a guy. He was such a sweetheart, very romantic, came from a good Italian family, and I was just smitten. And then there was times when I was in the military that I did date bad guys. And then as I grew older, like, you know, dating is a progression through life. So you learn at what stage and age that you're in and what you like at each stage. And as you go along, you decide what characteristics that you want in a person, a potential partner. And then depends on emotional maturity and personal growth as well.
So when you say bad guys in the military, ooh, how bad could they really be? What was going on with them?
That's the After Dark show.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, I mean, just like guys that weren't so, I don't want to say easy to hook or easy to handle. Just like, you know, they hung out with the guys, and it was like a couple of the guys I dated. I mainly had long-term relationships, like all my dating life. But a couple of them, they hung out with the guys that were like didn't have a very high opinion of long-term relationships or serious relationships,
Mm.
you know, or monogamous relationships. I'll add that into the mix. But you know, I was young and I was still learning what I like and how to go about dating and the skills.
The skills.
Not those skills.
I'm just asking, just trying to clarify.
The emotional and mental growth that I had to do to figure myself out. What guys were good for me to date and what guys were not good for me to date.
And I know one of the things I had said, as far as the good guys, sometimes that's a knock against them, maybe lack of experience, maybe afraid to make the first move, sometimes maybe too clingy, want to spend, maybe want to spend too much time with you, or whatever the case is. And sometimes you know hear people say that's a turnoff for them, but on the
It's a turn
opposite,
off for who? Women?
some of them, when a guy wants to spend too much time.
I like a man that wants to spend a lot of time. Me personally, I don't need a lot of personal space, so it doesn't bother me for a guy to be, you know, expressing that they're really interested and they want to spend time with me. It doesn't bother me if they're clingy, but it does bother me when they act distant. And I guess I had to learn the hard way that, you know, some guys, they try to hide their interest level by hanging out with their guy crew. And that just doesn't work for me. Either you're with me all the way or you're not.
Mm. Yeah, I think some of us, you know, we learned the hard way from sometimes hanging out with our guy crew, when maybe it was times to just chill and be with your young lady.
Hmm. And a
But
lot of guys missed out on a good woman by having that mentality.
yeah, that's definitely right, because at the end of the day, after you hang out with the guys, you only can hope that there's somebody available for you at the end of the night. That's what you would be hoping for. Other than that, you just like a cat out on the prowl if you're hoping to get lucky. And
Hmm.
I'd rather have something secure than be out there chasing skirts, trying to come up. But I know some people that's the dice they like to roll.
Don't work for all women. Don't work for me. I'm like,
Or
if you want me, you gotta show up. You know.
show up and show
Well,
out, huh?
that's part of that's part and problem that a lot of young men have is the information that they're getting is from unreliable sources, and that's the point I was making earlier with regards to men not having somebody being able to show them the ropes. If all you have is pop culture, meaning music, film, TV, you're being fed the wrong message. And that's part of the reason why why we were discussing the marriage thing. If you look at the template for marriage that most people have, it's not a good template. Same thing with relationships. Most of the relationship templates that people see, especially in minority communities, it does them no good. It tells them that hookup culture, Instagram thoughts, or some of the women on TikTok, that's all they're searching for. Is a man who has money, he's well endowed, he's good in bed, or he can do a number of things that pleases her.
I mean, well endowed is a
Rarely is
plus.
there ever any information that's pertinent for. Say it again.
Well endowed is a plus.
I'm not. Hey,
You know, I gotta crack my
that's
jokes
not for
where
me
they
to
fit
question. It's
in,
not this.
so to speak.
No, it's not. It's not an issue for me to sit up and has. That's a female concern as far as I'm concerned. But the thing about it is when you're being fed a steady stream of that, who do you turn to actually say, is this accurate? Is this true? How do I go about doing this? How do I go about getting by this? How do I do this? There's a lot of things out there that it's a minefield. You spend a long time in the wrong minefield, you never make it out. No, that's
Mm,
and that's what David was alluding to earlier with the mention, I believe, of the incel and the men who simply put aren't active with women. There's a rising number of men who over the last year have had no sex, just no sex. Now, personally speaking, I don't know what that's like. But then again, I'm not in my early to mid 20s. I'm 50. So for me, that doesn't hold weight anymore. I'm content to just be by myself. And if I find somebody that I want to do something with, yeah, I'll give them a call. And if not, I'm cool because I have a life. I do things outside of the bedroom. I go places. So for me, I'm like, look, bruh, I can't tell you what to do other than develop yourself as a man because of what a lot of young men don't realize is this. I was watching, shout out to Uncle Ron Wells. He was doing a video similar to this topic. And what a lot of men have to realize is that if that you want to attract a woman, you have to become the best version of yourself, similar to what Kevin Samuels was saying. I tell men, become the Dos Equis guy. Become that guy for you. And you will have no problem getting women. But like I said, a lot of guys are being fed misinformation. They're being told you got to be this. They're being told you got to do this. They're being told you have to be that, earn this, and they don't know where to go.
Well, you had mentioned something about the Instagram, TikTok. So when you think about the young generation, yeah, it's definitely troubling because many of them women on there, they're showcasing it. They're advertising everything. They're getting the different
mhm.
jobs done, and they got whole menus of prices that they're charging for this and that. And as a young person, it'll be kind of hard to, if you met someone and you find out like, damn, well, yeah, you meet them and then you realize, okay, come across their Instagram page or whatever the case is, and now you see all the activity going on, and you're like, damn, like, what's that about? And you kind of in a tough spot when she breaks it down to you and tell you, listen, I do this to do that because this helps me get money, this and that. Are you gonna pay my bills? Are you gonna do this or that? And as a youngster, shit, even for an old person, nobody got time to be doing all paying nobody bills like that, for real, unless you just ain't got nothing to do with your money. Um, but they're in a tough spot because just the ability to market themselves or brand themselves is it's crazy. So sometimes you see some of them, you're like, oh, these people, they got 200,000 K subscribers and stuff like that. And it's it's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. So to get tangled up in
Yeah.
that, and you see it a lot in the NBA with some of them basketball players end up getting connected with those women, and then next thing you know, they end up getting them pregnant, and then they're like, bingo, I got him caught out there. Now I'm getting this excessive
Brittany
amount
Renner.
of child support a month. So
Yep.
it's a dangerous game.
Yeah. Brittany Renner and John Morant. I mean, like I said, it's a minefield out there, man. And minefields are only good for one thing, and that's killing people. And I hate to put it out there like that, but there's nothing good in the minefield.
But also, I just remember when you think about bad boys and good guys, you think about me growing up, the pressure that we used to put on ourselves as amongst our crew, my brothers, who was a couple years younger than me, just our whole crew. And when you would try to talk to a girl, and if you got shot down, I remember a word we started say, "Oh, she rejected you. She rejected you. You got rejected." So there was no moral support or no support. You were more so clown. Like you were pressured to like, okay, I like her. Okay, next time you see her, you're gonna say something to her. And you may not have been prepared to say anything. You didn't have your elevator speech together, but the pressure was heavy that okay, here's the opportunity. Say something to her. And a lot of times you would fold. I can say I folded numerous times to the point this one young lady started calling me lockjaw because I folded. I folded under pressure, but then it was the backlash you would get from your crew, and you got rejected by her. She rejected you, so now you're the clown for the night, and you sitting around waiting for the next person to get rejected when really there was no promotion. Like, man, you know what? Forget her, man. Go out there and get the next one or whatever the case is. It was crazy. It was crazy stuff growing up.
Yeah, and and this bleeds into the topic of communication. Being a lost art. Just a lot of young fellas don't, because of this device right here. They don't know how to have a conversation. They don't know how to sit down and talk about anything. Everything they do is social media based. Everything that they talk about is based on likes and it's unfortunate that they can't really sit down and have a conversation that most young adults would have. What are your dreams, aspirations? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years? You want kids, or you want this, or where do you want to travel in the world? Just gone, devoid of any real substance. And then they wonder, you know, especially the women start to wonder, well, all that men want is a hookup culture? And then the question becomes, so what else do you provide besides physical intimacy? Can you sit there and have a conversation about politics. And I know people don't like politics. Can you sit there and have a conversation about sports? And I know women don't like sports. So what do you want to talk about with the young man? You want to talk about what interests you? Eventually, he's going to get bored and nod off, and he's going to say, "You know what? I'll catch you later."
No,
So it's a double-edged sword when it comes to.
no, women like
Go ahead.
sports. Women like sports. I always been saying this for the for years.
Yes,
You got these 40, 50, 60
I
year
see
old
it when I
women.
go to. I see it when I go to live sporting. There's quite a few
All of a
women there.
sudden they into sport. Now some people you don't know. They may always been into it, but some people and you know damn well they ain't give a damn about sports, but now all of a sudden they got on their favorite team jersey, they doing this and that, and they don't know shit what's going on during the game. But I always say it's about trying to catch that man, because to, to be honest, you ain't into it like that. You ain't into that team like that. You're not.
I'm
And
sure not. That's me. I'm faking the funk.
yeah. So that stirs up conversation for a guy. Oh, you like the Bills? Oh, my team is the Cowboys, whatever. Well,
Yeah,
we play y'all next week or whatever the case is. And that's ladies, I mean, it's okay to do it, but when y'all start trying to go against people who studied this stuff and been talking about this, doing this for years, and you trying to do this on social media, you're not built like that. Not saying everyone, because there are some women know their sports and they grew up in it. They grew up their fathers, brothers, and all that stuff. But I got some
yeah.
funny tell me that over 90% of them, they just out there trying to catch.
I mean,
Slaughter me
that's
if you want
And
to.
I'll tell you what.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Anita. You were gonna say.
Oh,
I was gonna say.
so
Now I can.
that's something like me. If I'm dating a guy and I know he likes the Bills, I'm gonna put the effort into it. I'll say to research every game schedule there is, all the dates, and I'll be like, hey, what are we doing for the Bills game? And I try to understand. I don't understand the details of it. I know the overall point to this and that, and what an interception is, and a field goal and touchdown.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
I
I mean,
guess,
at least I make the effort and try.
and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you're trying to get acclimated with that individual. I'm talking about the ones that already have. They got the different outfits every damn week. The 3 or 4 jerseys and all of that stuff. The pants that go along with it. The colored sneakers and all that. Please stop. Please stop. For real. Please stop. Because know who I'm gonna look
that's
at.
and that's one of the reasons why I always tell people. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's one of the reasons why I always tell people go to a live sporting event, because rarely do you go to a live sporting event that somebody doesn't actually follow the sport. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't people there, but most people aren't selling out good money for tickets to go to a live sporting event of an event that of something that they don't follow. It's just rare. So that's where I mean, if you a little bit of game, if you a woman, you're actually out there trying to catch, go sit in the good seats. Those are your ardent fans, because that's where I sit. I mean, anytime I go to see the Yankees in Toronto, I'm sitting in the good seats. And it doesn't hurt that, yes, the American dollar goes farther. So I'm sitting usually within 15, 20 rows of the field.
And the social climate actually in person at games is different too. I prefer to go to a game like the Sabres game, Bills game, baseball game, rather than watch it at TV. I mean, on TV.
You see Annetta's comment. She said, "No football instead of trying to get the balls."
In addition to what she's saying, I will agree with what Anita said. Hockey games in person are fun. They really are because you really can't afford to get caught in side conversations and things of that nature, not paying attention because goals happen kind of quick. And it's funny. I remember my first live game, the year the Washington Capitals won. So I'm going back about 4 seasons ago now. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to somebody, and all of a sudden the game starts, and I'm thinking to myself, why didn't the announcer say the puck drop? Then I realized I'm at the game, so there is no announcer. You don't get starting lineup. So unless you actually, depending on where you sit, unless you actually know every player by number, you won't necessarily know who's on the ice because nobody's there announcing line changes. So you have to pay attention to all of that, line changes, potential penalties that might be called, how the play is moving, where potential goal might come from. All of that stuff is different when you're in the arena versus on TV. On TV, it's like everything is fed to you, so you can actually see something the moment it happens. Whereas when you're at the game, you actually have to develop what might happen so you can actually follow this stuff. Because if you don't have a clue at a live hockey game, it's going to show up real quickly, and you can try to affect the funk of somebody like, you're not a hockey fan. You just here because whoever gave you the tickets or whatever the case is. So it shows. It really does.
Yeah, that's true about being at the game because you get the luxury of the announcer, and they can give you a narrative of what's going on. So that's important, even like in live boxing matches and stuff like that. You're used to hearing the commentators break
Yeah.
stuff down, but then it comes to, okay, I got to really pay attention to see what's going on in this round, because if you just watching stuff at home, you could be talking to someone and you can still hear them talking and you can kind of pick up the pieces. But if you're out and about and you're running your damn mouth, you can miss something critical, like, damn, when did that happen, or whatever the case is. So and people probably like, okay, how y'all get on this subject, but it's about different mechanisms, about good guy, bad guy, or the lost art of communication. So you can kind of tie these conversations into one. And that lost art of communication, yeah, that communication is key. And sometimes, like Herb said, that younger people didn't have someone telling them the thing. They don't have some people telling them, or they have the wrong individuals. And even in our day, like if you wasn't connected with somebody old, or if your father wasn't around, or you ain't have an uncle or a big cousin, a lot of times you learn stuff from people your age. Yeah, they didn't know a damn thing,
Yeah.
but they would be giving you
That wasn't always a
misinformation.
good thing either.
So, but now with the current trend, see, during our generation, we respected people that held down jobs, who carried themselves well, and it was like an honor to have conversation with them, or for them to even acknowledge you, to know your name, and kind of take you under your wing. These kids now, not all, but many of them, they don't give a damn. They don't give a damn.
At
Um,
all.
what you got to say? You could be coming in there with 3-piece suits, getting out of a damn Grand Cherokee, Wagner, whatever the case is, and they still have something to say or try to find something, a weakness about you, which is unfortunate. Where when it's a lot of people got a lot to offer, and a lot of, I don't want to say gang, but that's kind of the, the word that we'll use amongst ourselves to kind of school you. And they're missing out on a lot of that information. Even again, I hate to tie it back to sports, but even old school ball players compared to new school. When an old school guy well, we did this what you need to do. Oh man, that was back in the days. We don't play like that no more. We don't do that no more. They don't really want to take advice like that, and it'll catch up sooner or later.
Yeah, and the other thing is, with the good guy, bad guy thing, you're more apt to see corporate guys at sporting events, whether they're corporate sponsors or they've gotten tickets or things of that nature. Rarely do you see the bad guys at these type of sporting events. So the thing that a lot of women miss out, especially when they're younger, is while they're chasing that guy who happens to be a little bit of the thuggish element, he's not going to those things. So the older you get as a woman, you become bored with those things. And heaven forbid if you actually have a kid, then now you really have some concerns about who you're bringing around your child, because you don't want that. If you're a good mother, you don't want that element around your child. You want somebody who's actually going to do things the right way. He's going to go to work. He's going to exhibit some of the qualities, the work ethic that you want your child to pick up, especially if he's a male. And that's one of the reasons why you actually have a lot of women get into sports, is because of their son. Most of them are putting their son in figure skating. He's not going to be an artist. He's not going to be a dancer. And if he's not academically progressing at that point to where he's going to be a scholar, then there's not much else left for that young man to do except to channel himself towards sports. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he has to become a professional athlete, but for most boys in America, athletes is one of the ways that you can actually draw the gaze of females. And you don't have to be well spoken. You just have to perform well. They will find you. Like I used to tell my mentees, I said, I understand you're at that point in your life where you want these girls. I said, but I'll tell you this. Get your academics right. Make sure you're doing well for yourself. Keep out of jail. Which for a lot of kids around here isn't that easy, because they get caught up in some nonsense while they're young. And that nonsense, even though it might be petty, is what keeps them mired, because once you're in the system's got a hold of you like the earth does the moon. And it's hard for a lot of them to escape. And then they don't know anything. They may not have graduated, or they graduated, but they can just barely read. They can't get employment. They can't get a job. So they're struggling just trying to keep a roof over their head. They have no shot at trying to get a female. So whether they're, great to talk to or whatever, eventually a woman's going to be like, man, you got nothing that I want. I don't care if you're good in bed. I got a kid that I need to take care of. Can you do that? And this is what we were talking about earlier, Dave, with you're going to pay my bills. That's where a lot of that comes from. You have a lot of women who got pregnant early in life, whether they were between the ages of 18 and 24, and now they're looking for somebody to take care of them and the kid. And I don't fault them for that. It is what it is. But that's what I tell these fellas. Look, don't get caught up in it. Don't get caught up in it. And if you're one of those guys that happens to get a female pregnant young and she puts you on child support, you got to stand in the mirror and look at yourself and hold that out. And until you get off child support, clear the arrears or whatever the case is, you're working for the state. It's an ugly situation. There's a lot of fellas falling prey to it. There's not to get into political agendas, but there's a movement that's trying to address the inadequacies, if you will, in child support. So, like I was telling fellas, it is nothing wrong with not bedding a woman early in life. Because if you bed the wrong one, you in bed with her for a good long time, and it's not going to be a fun ride, no pun intended.
And to kind of go back on maybe not that actual point, but a lot of times guys are I don't know if they're direct, like some guys may be angry at the fact that it was a young lady that they were interested in when they were younger, and they didn't pay them no mind because they were quote unquote a good guy, nerdy, maybe spoke well, really wasn't that popular, but you always knew that that guy was going to be successful. And he may had a crush on a young lady, never really said anything, but she knew the way he looked at her or whatever the case is. But then once things have checked, as time go on, she may have had a kid by the bad guy. And now, she's like, okay, it's more to life than this or that. Now I'm looking, I got myself established. My child is a little older. Um, I got me a professional position. Now that same guy that used to like you, he may look at you different. I don't know if many guys may give off an attitude like, "No, I don't want you now." Back in the days, but he never really directly said anything, and that's probably because his confidence wasn't right. And sometimes, I mean, I'm not trying to provoke not having confidence, but sometimes, ladies, that guys do fumble the ball sometimes. They may fumble the ball sometimes. And did you say, huh? Like, you don't know where I'm going with this? Anita, did you say, huh?
No.
Oh no, I do. Absolutely, I do.
Yeah. So they may fumble the ball sometimes, but it's if you're willing. And again, we always said one of my old coworkers I used to work with. We used to say, "There's so many parallels to sports to life." He said that should be a book written, and a lot of times you do fumble the ball. If in sports, sometimes a player may fumble the ball. He might not get in for 2 or 3 games, or whatever the case, depending on when he fumbles. And the same thing happens with life. Like, you have this shot. Okay, we went out, but I wasn't impressed with this. I didn't like his outfit, what he had on. He didn't really have too much to say. I asked him this or that, and then that's that. But he never gets another opportunity. But then down the road, you see him, you're like, man, no, looking good now, or whatever the case is. He used to be so corny in high school, and when he was in college, he might not mess with you like that. He may not mess with you like that. And I think there's a lot of backlash, a lot of back and forth. Not saying specifically with the manosphere, but I think overall with the genders and stuff like that, with things that people went through. That's just my take. Just wanted to throw that one out there.
It's funny how that actually works out for. I mean, I never really kind of fit into that mode, only because I started hanging out in Canada. So for me, it was, go where you celebrated, not where you tolerated. So once I started hanging out in Canada, I was like, you know what? These women seem to be a little bit more amenable to an individual like me, one who was working at the time, going to school, had a future. I didn't have to deal with all the nonsense that a lot of brothers who were kind of relegated to the U.S. side had to deal with. So, while they were talking about, I'm going to Buffalo, I'm like, Buffalo? I'm going to Hamilton. Hamilton? What the hell is Hamilton? Man, about 45 minutes away from here. There's a city the size of Buffalo, man, all types of women there. And then when we really got reliable transportation, we started going to Toronto. So when people wonder why I always talk about Toronto so much, is because I've been going to Toronto for 20 some odd years, hanging out downtown in the theater district, doing things, Carabana. And once we discovered Carabana was, no looking back.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that, Herbert, because the division, I was one of the ones that was going to Buffalo, but I had people in my crew that did both. They was diverse in both. I never wanted to get to that Canadian side. So I do understand that. And that's more of a, if you think about Niagara Falls, New York, we're literally can walk over to Canada. So people listening elsewhere. So, it's like two different sides of the world once you go over there compared to the U.S. side, and then Niagara Falls, Buffalo. it's just a different mixture of people. So I was more, well, yo, let's go to Buff.
Yeah, because literally, I'm sitting in my living room. I am a 15-minute walk from the U.S. Canadian border. I mean, honestly, I can sit in my backyard right now at this particular moment. If I went in my backyard, I can hear the roar of the cataract of the falls. And a lot of people, they're kind of dismissive of that. And the thing about it is, when people move away from here, wherever they go, be it out west, Midwest, or South, the one thing they always say is when they see pictures of the falls, that's the one thing that they miss because it's such a draw. You think we get people that come from all over the world just to see the falls. And a lot of people, on this side of the border, they take it for granted, but they never visit. They never go down there. They never take in the cataract. Me personally, I bike through there. Just matter of fact, about 2 weeks ago, Anita, she was down there at the same time, but we were in different parts of the park. I just took it in. I just went down and said, you know what? I just say, let me go for a walk. Walked around the falls. But, there's a lot of people that had things in their backyard that they never utilized.
Hold up. Knowing you and Anita, y'all had a freaking deep dish pizza down there at the falls.
I think the time that she was on Goat Island, I was over by the American Falls. And for people who don't understand how the falls themselves are set up, there's actually three. There's the Canadian Falls, which is also referred to as the Horseshoe Falls. There's the American Falls, and then there's a smaller falls called the Brighterville Falls, which is about 40 feet at the crest. But the falls
We were
itself
at
is
Three
actually a
Sisters
park.
Island.
Yeah, see, I think at that particular point when you were there, I was coming back around from the Horseshoe Falls, making my way back to the northern part of Three Sisters Island because I think you may have been on the other side.
Mm.
And I was already ready to wind down my trip and go back home. But so like I was saying, people they take a lot of this stuff for granted, and they don't realize that if you're a guy and you want to get out and you want to meet people, or you just want to take a walk with somebody, a prospective date, why not go down to the falls? It costs you absolutely nothing. You get to walk around, especially if it's in the summertime and it's hot. Excellent place to be. The mist cools you off. You can sit there, grab yourself an ice cream cone or whatever it is. Bring a picnic basket. You have the ideal time for a date. You have open dialogue. Nobody's gonna bother you. You don't have to worry about impressing nobody. And like I said, if you have the ability to sit there and discuss things, you got it made. But unfortunately, it's an untapped resource, and a lot of people don't use it. They have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what the hell did I just hit? Hold on, folks. All right. So yeah. So when you think about these, think about these different subjects, and we kind of tie two of them in together: nice guy versus bad guy, and a lost art of communication. How do you bridge the gap with the communication going forward? Because I know she was just in here in a little while ago, but like Annetta said before, she said she's not she doesn't like to talk on the phone. But then, you have some people who like to talk on the phone, or people like prefer to text and stuff like that. So back in our days, you only had the one way of doing things, and that's how either it was face to face or you'll be on your phone. And then things start to modernize when we got cordless phone. You was really the shit when you had the cordless phone, because you can monopolize that, have it in your pocket or whatever the case is, have it next to you when you wait for the next phone call, especially when you had siblings, whatever. You was doing big things, whatever, when you had the cordless phone. And then everybody had the phone in the kitchen, and then you would be on the kitchen counter talking, and you didn't have that much mobility. So, and I'm only trying to give y'all a visual, take it back how things have changed. And man, we had some very interesting times. Very interesting times. Then it got to the point that if you couldn't get to on your house phone, shit, if you had a few quarters in your pocket and you had a payphone there, you're like, man, I got to call her tonight. I told her I was gonna call back, and my mother won't get off the damn phone because it's hard as a kid to have a young lady that's interested in you call you, and there was no way that she could because for a while we didn't have pagers or anything like that. So either, well, if you had a one way, then your phone was just freaking busy.
Yeah.
If you had a two way, you could click over. You could click over. A lot of mothers was rude as hell. They wouldn't click over when they on the phone with their sister. Moms, I know you listening. And I missed out a lot of conversations with people like, I called you, but it just kept ringing. and that would be the case or whatever. So unless they click over and it's like, and my mother, it was time. Oh yeah, she did call you, and you didn't give me the phone. But I was really in no position to say anything. I wasn't paying any bills, so I'm just telling you how the difference is of how it was back in our days. So, and again, if you were someone lucky and you had some spare change, you could possibly go to a payphone and call and try your luck, whatever. But man, that if people sat down and listened to how we had to communicate, and which wasn't bad when you think about before us, the way they used to say they used to have to communicate. So, man, we getting old, man. We getting old, man. Anita, we
I
getting
was
old.
I was just thinking that's why they made the who was the new edition made the song Mr. Telephone Man?
Yeah.
Hmm. I remember the kangaroos
Yeah,
that
man. I mean,
had the pocket
times
in the
have
side to
changed, man.
keep a
So
dime for the payphones.
yeah, yeah.
I had
I mean,
my
so
mom,
I mean,
I'm chatty Cathy,
it's like
so my mom put me on like a 15-minute timer when I was on the phone.
Mm, 15 minutes, man. That would
Girls
that
got
would
a lot to talk
hands in the
about.
hourglass. Your time starts now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm not saying you do. I'm not saying you don't. I'm there are times where I've had a conversation for an hour and I'm not immune to it. But then again, it's never once I got to college, it was I didn't have to worry about impugning anybody's uh right to talk on the phone or time spent on the phone. And when I was in college, I was generally too busy anyway because I was working weekends and one year I ran track, so I didn't really have the time to sit there and do that. And all the organizations that I was doing things with, so and I think that's where a lot of people fall short, especially in high school, is they don't belong to any secondary organizations. And people always hear me talking about, doing things um, in terms of donating time. That's where a lot of that starts is in high school. Whether you belong to the drama club or any other sports organizations or anything that's volunteer based, that's always it's an open dialogue. So you know why an individual is there. Ask them how long you been doing this, what initially brought you to this. Those are avenues that um, permit and ease the beginning of conversations. So from there, if you're good enough, you can parlay that into an outing. It's also a different way to connect in terms of business. A lot of people they never look at it in that capacity. They say, well, she was just this and she was just that. You never know. She could put you in contact with somebody who could help you propel your project for if you have something that you're stuck on. She also might have access to resources, the angel donors. You need that $1,000 to get your project off the ground. We never look at things in that totality. So the only thing a lot of people look at is what can they do for me, not necessarily what we can do for each other or how can we help each other get to the next point. And that goes, and I'll link it back to what we were saying earlier in terms of being in this area. If you have the ability to get to both sides of the border, then you never know who you can hook up with. And Toronto is a major world city. So just imagine if you get on the Canadian side of the border and you hook up with somebody. Let's say you're a concert promoter.
Hold on,
That's
Herb.
something
I'm about
side
to
gig.
I'm about to step away. I gotta go have a cigarette, but I'll be right back. Cigarette break. Yeah, go ahead and continue the conversation.
Let's just say you're a concert promoter, and that's something you do on the side, and you say, "Hey, I'm from the U.S. I get a couple of tours that come down here every so often. How can I branch out into Toronto, which is a much bigger market?" Well, she says, I don't know, but I know a guy who promotes concerts at Air Canada Center, which is the home of the Raptors and also the Toronto Maple Leafs. And she puts you in contact with that individual. Next thing you know, you go from booking venues that are 300 seat venues to booking venues that hold 500 people, 1,000 people. Next thing you know, you moved up in income just because you were willing to work with somebody who you didn't have other than a sexual interest in. And I think a lot of those options are left on the table, and people just they don't realize that sometimes you have to take a situation and run with it, even if you don't have a romantic interest in that person. There's still a resource, and because we don't know what they can provide, there's no use in just putting them aside because you just have one particular interest. See what they can do for you. See who they know. Build your network. And that's something Dave is always talking about, building your network. So build your network. It allows you to explore. It allows you to go different places. Even like I have a gentleman on my friends list, Lorenzo, who's a DJ. He gets paid to travel, and I can't remember the genre of music he plays. He gets paid to travel and DJ events. You mean to tell me this man gets paid to travel and play music at events and meet all kinds of people? His friends list is littered with thousands of people who dance. And I'm thinking, damn, how the hell did you get to do that? And he's just, man, I just started DJing one day, and people like the way I play music, rotate this in and do this. And next thing you know, he's traveling all over the country, meeting people who he otherwise would have met just off of DJing. So I mean, all these little things that people have, these little not necessarily skill sets, but side gigs, because we're in a gig economy now, they can lead to opportunities that not only can enrich your life, but they can become profitable. So, you say you don't like to work, you don't like this manager, you don't like this individual, you stuck in a dead end job. Develop something that can get you some money. Develop something that will allow you to travel, even if it's art, because art always seems to be an avenue to being able to travel other places and do things. Um, Acting, I like theater personally, so that's always going to be something that I'm always going to talk about. But art, theater, singing, all those types of things, they are untapped venues, or I'm sorry, untapped avenues that a person can engage in, and you don't know where it might take you.
That's true. When I worked with a nonprofit, I was in charge of Niagara County outreach, and I got paid to go sit in the Saber suite. We had surf and turf, got to rub elbows and chat with all kinds of people, you know. different events in the communities and in Buffalo. And it was really interesting. I met a lot of interesting people, businessmen, a lot of contacts, you know. And then I passed it on to veterans because it was a veterans organization. I was like, hey, you should get a hold of so and so, you know, you guys might could benefit each other. And yeah, it seemed to work out pretty well. And actually, in my field that I'm going into, how I met the director of one of the rehab places. I used to go into that particular place with meet the veterans like once or twice a month. And I happened to run into her at the supermarket. I said, hey, you remember me? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, I'm trying to get into this place when I graduate. Oh, yeah, give me a call. So even with meeting different females, working, volunteering, it could present opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have.
And I think it's true, and I'm gonna take it back to the whole dating and relationship piece. That usually, if you're a part of something, that gives you an opportunity to gain comfort with those individuals. So conversations become easier, and that's why we always make light of the situation and joke about work romances and things like that. But a lot of times you'll see that a lot of people end up marrying coworkers. Maybe they end up eventually going separate ways as far as their career. One of them end up going to a different position or whatever the case is. But sometimes being a part of something brings people closer together. So when you have opportunities, even as young people, like doing internships or being a part of um, summer programs and things of that nature, it gives you opportunity. Maybe 5, 6 weeks that you're together and you're talking every day. And I can speak to it when I used to work for Johns Hopkins Gifted and Talented summer program when I was a 10-month employee. Uh, and I would, make sure I had a summer position locked down, and I had did that for I don't know, maybe like 6, 7 years. Um, and every summer I would work, and you would have young people, younger people, either, you know, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and some grad students, but we would be together for 6 weeks, and I was part of the senior admin team, and you would see how their relationships would develop. And I think a couple of them, some of them went on to end up getting married based on those not that particular time, and they would come back the next summer or whatever the case is, but they form a connection and they end up getting married. So sometimes you have to do things outside of the box to get different results. And I think sometimes that's where people struggle at. And I know some people, they say, okay, I'm gonna join the church, and they be a part of that. And sometimes that happens. It happens for them in that regards too. So you have to almost want to be a part of something to get close to something. So don't rule out those opportunities, because sometimes just thinking you're gonna be in the grocery store and somebody go by pushing the cart looking good, and you push up on them, you're going to be maybe viewed as a weirdo, or that's more of a common thing. Like, oh, I was out and this dude was trying to holler at me at the grocery store, whatever the case. Sometimes it works, but I wouldn't bank on that. You got a better opportunity of being part of something when you're seeing somebody on a regular basis weekly basis that you can start building a connection together. And the communication becomes a little
Yeah.
more easier in those regards.
That's one of the things
Yeah, those are
with actually it goes way back to way back in civilization. Um it's something called social bonding, and the bands, tribes, and chiefdoms, it was, you know, a process, but the more that they stuck together and bonded with each other and shared resources, they survived and they thrived. Whereas the people that kind of didn't have, I'll say they more or less isolated, they had like a negative biofeedback. But the ones that had social bonding and, you know, a lot of people, different people that they traded resources with, they had positive biofeedback. So also when you're getting out there talking to people, it like stimulates your mind.
We know that from just when you think about when you have elderly people, and there's some that no one comes to visit them. They have no family love. They're isolated. Then you have some that they got their children, grandchildren coming there every week. They got the whole activity room is
The whole
filled with their
community.
guests, and they, you know, they live longer. They feel the love. They don't have to go through the levels of depression or sadness, because sooner or later you get older and you got other stuff going on that's going to take you out. So that social bonding stuff is real. That you think you can be a damn hermit and say, I'm cutting everybody off or whatever the case. I know I always make a lot of jokes and say, oh, once I get this amount of money, whatever, I'm on Machiavelli. I'm just talking. I'm still gonna have my love, family love, and people like that. But for about 1 or 2 weeks, I'm gonna get ghosto folks. That's coming, and that's coming. But everybody needs that connection, and that's what keeps the heart going. Whatever,
I think
and it's
that's why
real.
my grandma lived to be 108, because in Florida we have cousins, aunts, her children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great grandchildren, great grandchildren. I mean, and everybody went over to visit her. The kids, I mean, didn't matter how old they were, little babies that were just born from the family. Grandma just loved them to pieces. So I think that's what kept her mind, kind of occupied away from her physical, medical issues.
Yeah. So all of that, all of that is important. It's it deals with a sense of belonging, that
Hmm.
everybody has to have a sense of belonging. You know, Sometimes people go to work and they don't. They go to work and they put in a 7.5 hours, 8 hours, and really don't say anything to anyone. Uh, I don't have that luxury. Sometimes I wish, like, I don't want to be bothered with nobody. Nobody say shit to me today. But I don't have that luxury. So it's always going to be some social bonding. But for some people, may work jobs like that, that they go in their cubicle, they do whatever, type away, talk on the phone, and they out. But are they really happy with that? Unless on the outside they have the family and all of that stuff like that. But I think a well balanced person has to have some form in at work as well as home. And I think individuals to have it both ways. It's more of a balance when you in positions like that. Unless then when you get to the next level, creating your own opportunities and your own, you're an entrepreneur, whatever, you dictate whatever the case is. But um so all this stuff is relative, whether the communication, the lost art, the bad boys, good guys, it's all relative, whatever that we have to take our thoughts a little deeper when we think about our connections.
hmm
All right, good
Especially with
people.
communication, like these cell phone things. I mean, they're good and all, but sometimes I'm like, can you just call me so I can have a 5-minute conversation instead of drawing it out for like a half hour to an hour just so I can say something in 3 minutes and get it over with? But when I'm multitasking, it's helpful when I'm multitasking, but when I just got a couple question and answers I need and want right then, like, I need to talk to you for 3 minutes. Give me 3 minutes. I'll say what I gotta say. You give me the answers, and that's it. Like, my sister's one for that. My niece is one for that. They'll text me, just text me, just text me. Girl, I don't have time to text you. I'm driving.
All right, everyone.
So,
I have to duck out. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to disrupt you. I have to duck out. I have to get ready to go to the salt mine tonight.
Well, all right, all right. All right. Well, be safe, be well, and enjoy your evening.
so I don't get
Will
no
you?
pizza tonight, Herb.
No, I'm afraid not, young lady. No pizza
Darn it.
tonight.
I was hungry too.
Next week.
I was about to come over and do the podcast over there and eat some pizza.
Out.
And so yeah, with texting, like, a couple times I gave new guys my number and they'll text me WYD and all these other acronyms. I said, what are you talking about? Can you just, I mean, I guess when you know somebody like that, it's a little different. But initially, I'm like, do you know English? Do you know proper English? Like, let me know kind of that you're, at least base level.
Typically, when
You
you
don't have
have
to be at my level particularly, but at least let me know that you know how to write and read. And I don't have anything against adults that are illiterate. I'm just saying, like, if you have a cell phone and we're texting, like, all acronyms, come on.
that's because they probably have if they have teenage children or people that communicate on a regular basis, they pick up on that lingo and stuff like that. I
I
mean,
don't think so. Even when I was on a dating app a couple years ago, the first message would be like WYD da 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 da. I'm like, that ain't the first message I want.
well, some of them people who was on the dating app, they probably did research and trying to, okay, want to feel like I want to make sure that I fit in with everything. So let me try this out, whatever. Instead of just being themselves and letting it.
No, that is really themselves. Because I would message back. I'm like, what's WYD? Why are you texting me WYD, TF, whatever other acronyms? You don't know what that means? Yeah, I know what that means. I just don't want that to be the first initial message that you write me.
I understand that comes off
That to me is like lazy.
as a grown ass person. You slide into that conversation after you get used to each other and you break it down like that. But initially, to be all of that, what you're doing and TF the fuck and all of that stuff, whatever, like, because some of that stuff I know I have to do research on it, like what the hell this person talking about or whatever the case is. But you don't want to get too comfortable doing that if you have a position that you constantly sending out emails and all that, because sometimes you can have a Freudian slip or something there. Don't realize, like, I'm not texting. Oh shit, this was an email I sent out. I never done it before, but I
I've
can
done
see
it.
where people have done it and realized that that was an email, a work email instead of text, especially when you got a bunch of texts going on, then you got emailing and all that stuff. So it's easy to lose your train of thought and focus on it. So be mindful of that as well.
Yeah. In the Army, we say, "What do you think? You're back on the block? You better come on now. We ain't back on the block, soldier. You know how to talk to your people, right? Your supervisors and all that. We ain't back on the block. That's something you jive with your friends about. But when I step in, it's yes start, no start, like appropriate conversation. Remember this one soldier, I was like, oh no, disciplining him or yelling at him or something. He's like, "Oh, Sergeant H, you're so cute when you're mad." I'm like, what did you just say? Soldier, no. That's so inappropriate at work. I don't play that mess. So sometimes people get a little bit too comfortable being comfortable. I'm like, no. That's in and some guys they get inappropriate on dating sites too. I'm like, who in the world have you been talking to? Like, you don't come on here and message me some craziness, especially for the first message, especially before I even meet you. That is a real big turnoff. You know?
Yeah, that's wild. And
The art of communication.
and the thing that I always
I
say,
guess if that's your climate, that's your climate, but I ain't going for that kind of climate because I'm a little bit more I don't know. Some people will call me uptight, but I'm a little bit more proper than that.
well, the one thing I always say, KYP, know your personnel, and it takes a while to know your personnel. So, but again, these subject matters, we try to touch on certain things and try to shed some light. So, and I'm thinking
So
about
somebody out there can catch some hints.
if they listening. If they don't, they'll come across it on YouTube, maybe LinkedIn or whatever the case is. But it's just,
Or they'll come across it in a bad experience.
yeah. I think it's just more so of just putting stuff out there in a platform of having a casual conversation and not. I watch other podcasts and I'm like, okay, lighten up, and people are focused and direct, like it's a workshop, and on a Monday night at 9 o'clock, people are ready to maybe just
Find it down and relax.
yeah, shoot the shit and just relax and have some adult conversations, and then
Eat
lay it
pizza and hang
down.
out with Herbert's cats.
Yeah. Seem like you missing out on that, but then again, you was just getting dressed, so maybe Herb said, "Yo, let's do the 52 fake out on David, whatever." The cats, so
I'm
we can get
still
off
in
the
my
show.
pajamas.
You got a car, so all you got to do is jump in there and drive over there. Yeah, y'all ain't fooling me. Now I didn't want to go viral with this, but now you trying to
Go viral with what?
your business and y'all trying to hit me with the 52 fake out like just I'm about to act like I'm going to work, get dressed, and then sooner or later David's gonna close out the show, then come over. I got this damn nice ass deep dish pizza. Wait, I
You
already
so
know.
funny.
I already know what's going down.
You
But
so funny.
I'm not gonna hold y'all. We had one more point, but I'm about bringing over carryover. So this could be that conversation could be for another time
I
because
got
actually,
my flannel Christmas winter pajamas. I gotta let my dog out, but I'm still here.
yeah,
I mean, I have gone to the store in my pajamas real quick, but wait, hold on. Hold on. My dog ran away. I'll be right back.
all right, go ahead.
Come here, buddy. Oh, forgot to mute it. Sorry.
Well, good, good people. And it happens. Usually in the counselor's corner, it's built on, people coming in, joining the panel discussion. Some conversations is more heated, and people can't wait to join. Tonight was kind of light, just touching up on some basic communication skills and things of that nature. But I'm not I'm not going to be someone because, in the counselor's corner, what is it, 10, 20? We didn't have shows that went on to 12:30, 1 o'clock. I'm not pressed to carry on like that because I have other pressing issues myself, work related, that I have to look into, as far as one of my duties that I have to do that I had just got an email um, earlier, a few hours ago. So that has to be addressed. So I'm gonna wait till Anita comes back, and we're gonna give our closing comments, and we're gonna get out of here earlier. But again, always like and share the video. If you please subscribe, tell someone to subscribe. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. It doesn't cost no money to create, if you don't have a YouTube account, to create a YouTube account and subscribe. You'll be surprised to the point that some people don't even pay attention to TV. They watch different things on YouTube all day long. Just because they got a YouTube account, they subscribe to different people channels, and they get everything they want. And that's how things have turned, because actually probably a week, two ago, I was ready to say, man, I'm done with this cable stuff. I mean, I like my sports and all that stuff, but what they're trying to do is just not right, whatever, like the prices and all that stuff. And in this stage of the game, I'm about trying to save some money. So if down in the counselor's corner, I don't have a smart TV. I still got my flat screen TV, but I'm about to transition into a smart TV and just have the different apps. And I'll pay $3.99 a month, $5.99 a month, $6.99, as long as you don't have 40 or 50 different apps you paying that price for. But if you got a few that you do, hey, you making out better. And as long as you pay for your internet and stuff like that, because all this cable stuff and all these other channels and um, the basic news channels, shit, you can see that stuff on your cell phone. What comes up and all that stuff, they're getting over. So I'm about to try to flip this whole thing. And if I want to watch a boxing fight on Showtime, because they already, HBO is dead with boxing. That's a damn shame right there in itself. And Showtime will soon be dead in boxing as well. I'll order the trial or pay $10.99 for that particular time, but it's getting out of hand. That's a whole nother conversation. But I'm just thinking outside box as far as like different things. It's crazy some of the things that we think about or what's going on. Trying to be patient, but when Anita come back, she can be like, "Damn, he was out on me." But I'm not one to just sit up here and
I'm back. I hear you.
I was about to say just be baffling with conversation with babble. Uh,
I caught my dog.
your dog ran away on you. He was showing out.
He saw, I was letting him out. He saw a rabbit, a squirrel, a cat, something. He went running.
So while you were going, I was basically saying that I was I'm not going to prolong the conversation because, like I told them, we've been on here 12:30 to 1 o'clock, and this is the opportunity because I got other stuff that I have going on, and the panel is kind of like this conversation was kind of like, sometimes we have stuff that'll be full throttle going back and forth. So I'm gonna use this opportunity to get out. I know I heard what you said earlier. You going through probably emotionally drained as well with your aunt and stuff. So I'm gonna use this opportunity to we get out of here earlier, and then maybe next week we recharge and come back with something. Yeah, I know how that goes. But if you want to give any closing comments on the topic of good guy, bad guy, lost art of communication, did go for it. Herb just made a comment. Where's the after dark? See, y'all on some little shit, whatever. But I'm gonna let that slide. I'm
No
going.
after dog, Herb. I had a long day.
Yeah.
No,
you
the
got any
art
closing
of
comments?
communication is important. Like you say, know your personnel, know your people. Yeah.
That it?
And plus, like when I'm texting a conversation, people that don't really know me personally or in that capacity, they misconstrue my sense of humor. And when you don't have that tone, when you can't understand the tone in my voice that I'm using over text, I mean, especially somebody that shut up, Herb. Especially somebody that, I'm just started talking to, and they get it all wrong. And they're like, oh, blah blah. I'm like, I was just being sarcastic, but I forget, like, you don't know me in that capacity. So sometimes it is important to hear the voice on the other end so you can get the full effect of the conversation and the tone. That's it. That's all.
Well, yeah, that's definitely true. You definitely can't get that by text messaging and never even having a whole conversation or tone and reflection of that person's voice. So I understand as far as
Yep.
that. And my closing comment to it all is, hey man, communication is everything. Communication, consistency, and being who you are. And live by that. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have our times that certain things come up and you might have to change up the game a little bit. But typically, people that's close to you, they know what you stand for. They know who you are, and they can pick up on and that's why sometimes people say something ain't right about certain situations when they feel danger about something. They're like, that's not how they typically respond, or they usually get back after a certain while when you establish a pattern of consistency. So that all ties in with communication. I'm not going to even put that on the uh, good guy, bad boy thing, but more so the art of communication, and I'm taking it deeper than relationships, just overall, just being consistent with your communication and who you are and what you represent. It it bridges the gaps and makes things much better. So be mindful of that. And again, like I said, tonight was a light show. Give y'all a little reprieval. I can't say what we're gonna come up next week because after this, I probably want some shit to break out next week. So we're gonna have to think deep and hard to come up with something to get things popping off. Because for whatever reason, people think, I joined the counselor corner. I thought it was a bunch of counselors in there. Who the hell? Why the hell did you think that it was going to be a bunch of counselors sitting around in a group on Facebook? Like, get real. Like people is crazy. But what it let me know is a lot of people need help. They need therapy, and they don't want to go through their job or anything. They want to do it outside of it, and they see, the counselor's corner. That must be somewhere I can go express my points and all that. But you might get fried by putting your stuff out there, but that's okay because you only grow when you're uncomfortable, and nobody can dispute that. Oh, they grew when they were comfortable. You ain't grow. You only grow when you're uncomfortable because when you're uncomfortable, it makes you want to change and do something different. So
Mhm.
we always say that. So, with that said, we're out. See you next time. Everybody be well, be safe, and enjoy your weekend. We'll see you again. Peace and
Bye.
love. All right. Bye bye.